So, George, welcome. Episode number 3 of Give It a Nudge. So you're in the early days. So, don't worry if it's not too good, because they'll get better as they go along. But, George, why don't we start by you talking a little bit about Anfin? But just for everyone who's watching, George and I have met about 12 months ago when we started to work with his business, and it has grown exponentially since then. And my goodness, it's such a different business to how it was when we first met 12 months ago. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about what Amphin is, and then I've got some questions for you.
Absolutely, no problem at all. So Amphin is a startup fintech business. We're a business that focuses very much on the customer experience, and as a result of the customer experience, the business model is actually around financial services for SME and consumers as well.
Yep.
We specialise mainly at the moment in the referrer market, which is essentially our niche. Mm-hmm. And as you said, by focusing on that niche, our business has changed.
Exploded.
Yeah, changed quite a lot over the period of that time.
It's been we've had some ups and downs together.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think there'll probably be a few more, but that's good.
And look, we probably speak daily, if not every other day, but I have a feeling today I'm going to learn some things I don't know about you, which is exciting for me as well.
Yeah, this is cool.
So look, as you know, because you're one of our best and oldest customers since we started, the Nudge Group and Give It a Nudge is about helping startup businesses grow and helping them understand their story, which hopefully we've done with you, but more importantly, convey and portray that story out to potential clients, potential customers, and also more importantly, the people who are going to come and work for you.
Yep.
So why don't we start by you just telling us a little bit about your story. You're obviously the founder of, why Amphin started, how it came about, and where you sort of got to now.
Yeah, cool. So, look, if I were to look back on my journey, including my, obviously, the employment part prior to even starting the business, I'd say that I was probably one of the most unemployable people you would ever meet.
Often the way.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of that came down to I didn't know what I wanted to do. Funnily enough, even from an early stage, I had 2 things that I wanted to do. I either wanted to become a lawyer,
yep,
or I wanted to get into the financial services industry. And for one reason or another, it didn't happen. So over that time, I had roles that were predominantly sales-based roles that were initially in customer service, moved over into complaints coordination, which is a bit outside of the sales roles, but then moved into more senior roles as relationship managers for fast-moving goods, so FMCG. Mm-hmm. Again, over the course of 10 years, I probably had 6 or 7 jobs. I was, like I said, virtually unemployable. A
recruiter's nightmare, seeing a resume like that, absolute nightmare.
Look, and I was, right? I'd go to recruitment and I'd barely get any other jobs that I really wanted. I almost was at a point where I'd just have to basically take what I could get. And I think that didn't really resonate with me. I always had this burning desire to do something for myself. I never really wanted to ever work for anyone from the outset. And that was probably the reason why I was virtually unemployable. But there was always that burning desire. I was always an ideas man. I always thought about different things. And, funnily enough, early on, I had some ideas and friends would laugh at them. Those ideas ended up coming to fruition later on and became very big business ideas. So they don't laugh anymore.
Now, are they?
No, they don't laugh anymore. And I guess, it was a pivotal moment in my life. I was just about to get married. I was really unhappy in the most recent role I'd undertaken. Mm-hmm. I was virtually doing nothing. I was given the role by a really good guy. He gave me the ability to run New South Wales and Queensland for this specific job that I won't go into the job details. And I was sitting at home for 3 days a week. I was getting paid. I was getting paid quite handsomely. But me as a person, the way that I operate, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the boredom. I couldn't handle the lack of direction. So my brother-in-law was in automotive industry. And I was on the phone with him one day saying, look, I really don't like what I'm doing. What do you do? He goes, I'm a business manager at an automotive dealership. So essentially, we sell finance options to customers who are purchasing vehicles through the dealership.
Yep.
I go, great. I go, sounds pretty good. I've always wanted to get into finance. Do you think I'd be good at it? He goes, yeah, I actually do. He goes, you're great at building rapport. Obviously understand the customer experience side of things. And, apart from that, you're just going to have to work weekends, which, was a bummer. I didn't really want to be working weekends, but I thought, hey, I've got to do something different. And then he told me how much we earn. And that was one of those things I said, okay, so basically, I don't have to have any qualifications, realistically, in this specific type of job. And I can earn this kind of money for basically the job description that you've given me. Okay. He goes, yeah. I go, all right, great. Get me some interviews. So he got me 3 interviews.
Yep.
I got all 3 jobs. First time in my life, I actually got all the jobs that I wanted to go for.
The unemployable man gets 3 jobs?
Yeah, got the 3 jobs. They must have saw something that I couldn't see back then. And back then, again, I went for the path of least resistance. I went for the easier one. What I meant by that was the one that was closest to home.
Yep.
Right? And because prior to that, again, I had some jobs that I had to take that were far from home, and it really did not have an impact on me that was good. I wasn't able to concentrate, I wasn't able to do the job properly. So I found a place that was close to home, and that was the thing that has literally changed my life.
Wow.
Now, it was great. I went in as a junior, so I literally took a 70% pay cut to start off, and I was just about to get married. We were building a house, living with the in-laws as well. And money wasn't really something that I had a lot of.
Working weekends sounds quite good now, though, living with the in-laws.
Absolutely.
I can see the attraction.
And I was DJing back then too, so I was still DJing. So I had to try to...
I didn't know you were DJing.
Yeah, I was a DJ.
Did not know that.
So I was DJing as well of an evening. So I didn't have much of a social life. I was working during the week.
Yep.
Of an evening, I'd DJ Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday nights. So it was pretty full on. But it made me realise what was in me, the kind of work ethic that I actually had. You know, I thought I was lazy prior to that. But the work ethic that I had, if I pushed myself, what I was actually capable of. So one of the key things that I identified when I moved into this job is that I've got a captive audience. You know, people come in, they buy a car, and they're essentially sitting with me to discuss their finance options, right? And I guess the beauty about it all was I was green. So I followed the process from start to finish. I learnt as I was taught, and I didn't try to add my own spin on it. The only spin that I added was my personality.
Yep.
Was to just make people feel that I was there to do the right thing by them. And the beauty about, I guess, me getting into the automotive industry at that point in time is that compliance started to get more important. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, people that worked in the automotive dealership space, especially business managers, were known to be loose, right? That weren't really interested in customer outcomes. Where that business that I worked for absolutely felt more strongly about the customer outcome first and the money part after. And that's why they're still successful even in a really hard market today. So that's one really good thing about working there too. Now, the other cool thing about this group was they had a brokerage that was attached to it. So I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to start getting referrals from these people who are a captive audience. So essentially, captive audience, hey, did you like my service at the end of it? Yes, I did. Well, if you're going to buy a car elsewhere, you're going to buy a piece of equipment, whatever it may be, know that you can use me, right? And then I started to build a database. Now, that database of people were actually mortgage brokers. So, yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, I might be onto something here. I go, mortgage brokers, the key thing that I'm hearing all the time is that I'm a mortgage broker, that's my core business. People are coming to me always for car loans, for asset equipment and so forth. And I just don't have the time to do it. Do you want to do it on behalf of me? So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do it on behalf of you. So I thought to myself, why don't I create a model that purely focuses from the outset on the mortgage broker and the experience for their client and how I can potentially, I can potentially do something that good that it doesn't even feel like they're leaving the mortgage broker's business.
Right.
And this is where we are today. So the idea of my business purely came from, going into something that was completely foreign to me, learning something new, finally, fulfilling something that I wanted to do, which was in the financial services industry.
Yep.
And just again, coming up, not just with a finance brokerage, a brokerage where you go online and find customers through, lead generation or, you've got other types of referrers, automotive referrers. I really just thought this is where I'm going to focus. I really think that there's a business here and I can't wait to be the innovator of this business. Not knowing that there were 4 others that were already doing it at the time. But the beauty was they were doing it for a long time. I was a fresh face. No one really knew who I was, and probably most people don't know who I am today. But the beauty about it was I could research them. I was looking at what they were doing and how I could make it better.
Yep.
And when we fast forward now, I think it's 2.5 years, we now have an active database of probably 8,000 referral partners.
It's a lot. They're referring work to you.
Yep.
8,000 people referring work to you.
Yep.
So if they do one a month, you're getting 8,000 referrals.
Yeah, well, we're not there yet. I think
that's
absolutely,
power, right?
And I think what we've tried to do over the course of the period of growth is make sure that we can't take on more than we can handle.
Yep.
And you've been a pivotal part to that in that we need to be able to ensure that we get the right people in the right places. And look, and I think one of the biggest things that has taught me as well is that I can't do everything. And now we're really turning this into an enterprise business, I believe. So.
And look, I think we'll come to it. We can't do everything in a minute.
Yeah.
And I think, look, what I've also noticed and seen is that because you're not from that world and you haven't been doing it ages, you don't necessarily think like them and you think differently and you're looking at new ways to solve the same problems. And, obviously you're looking at moving from a technology point of view in terms of making the whole thing better and so forth and so forth. So there's so many exciting things. And I think it's often people who didn't necessarily grow up in an industry that come in and really make it better, because they do look at it different ways, and I think that's important.
No, I agree. Yeah, mortgage brokers have a way of doing things, and and again, I came in with no misconceptions, no ideas. I just thought this is what I believe works, and thankfully it has.
It's hard to change your thinking. Trust me, you're talking to a recruiter who's changed his thinking, and it's not an easy thing to do. So let's go back to, we've talked a little bit about, and the success has been like incredible, and I've watched it, and it's amazing. And as much as I'd love to talk about success, and we will touch on it, I also want to talk about the failures, which I don't think anyone covers enough.
Yeah.
And I don't like the term failing fast particularly. I don't think that's a great idea. I think being willing to fail is probably more important. But I'd love to know what potentially is the biggest mistake that you feel you may have made, or the hardest thing that you've done. It really does either one, but the thing that you maybe has had the biggest impact on you and the success of the business. What do you think that is?
Look, I think my thinking from the start, my initial thought process around business was I had to be everything to everybody, right? Which is something that I've learnt and I'm continuously learning about. And I think it's probably the biggest mistake that I've made, right? Is that I've tried to be everything to everybody. So I've tried to be the CEO of this business. I tried to be the operations manager. I still try to do deals because I feel like I have to step in sometimes if things aren't going the right way.
Yep.
I've got to be the HR person. I've got to be that friend, that the shoulder to lean on. So, I think, it was only ever going to get to a point where it was just going to blow up.
Yep.
So I think for me, one of the key biggest mistakes I made from the outset was I tried to be too much. I tried to do too much. I tried to be everything to everyone. And as a result of that, we weren't growing. We weren't growing the way that I wanted the business to grow. So it was a line in the sand moment where I said to myself, if I don't start looking at other people to take on the different functions within the business, how am I going to get to the successes that I want to achieve? So, and again, as a part of that, and that really only happened a year ago.
Yep,
funnily
and
enough,
we met just after, yeah.
I joined Cub, and I was really looking for people to assist me in the business journey because I'm green. Like, when you really think about it, yes, I had a DJ business, but prior to that, I'd never have anything that was really that successful. Like I said, my employment history wasn't great. I finally got into a job where I did really well, I excelled at, but then I moved from a job that was, 2 or 3 years, I think I was in there all up,
Yep.
to now, embarking on a journey where I was going to be the head of a business that had massive aspirations for not a lot of experience. So, again, when you love something, which I love Anfin,
You do?
Yeah.
As do I.
Yeah. I love the business. I think, when you love it that much and you're emotional about it, you start thinking more emotionally. And that I think that emotion, drove me to try to do too much. And that's probably the biggest mistake. One of the other things that I'd say that was a mistake is I'm too trusting. I know it's bad. It's probably not a thing that you want to hear about, but I'm the type of guy that likes to share my successes. I like to share my failures. I like to share how my business is operating. I like to open the books and say, hey, look, this is what I do. This is how I operate. This is why I've been successful. Thinking that, people are going to take that the right way. And I think, I've learned over time that you've got to pick your audience.
That's true.
Yeah, you've got to be able to have the people that you treat as mentors, as friends, and that you can go and bounce ideas off, and your issues and your happiness and all that. But then you've also got to look at others and I guess see what do they really want to achieve out of the information that you're giving them. So
I agree. I have a similar problem. And it's interesting that you mentioned Cub, because we had the founder of Cub on this show as well. And, we talked about creating entrepreneurs coming together where they can do that. And you're right, if you tell the wrong thing to the wrong person, they'll use it for their own gain. And that's a massive, I'm still trying to learn that one. And so has that changed the way that you are today?
Look, it has, not to the people that I know are my mentors and my friends.
Yep.
But for people who are coming in after the fact, I am a bit more reserved now.
Yep.
There's a lot more at stake. We've gone from being a single operator, like I said, a couple years and a half ago, and to this thing now that is across the whole country. People know about. People are saying, why has this person in this short period of time gotten to where he's gotten? How am I going to get a piece of that?
Yep.
Right? And that's fine. At the end of the day, I'm of the belief that everyone should be successful. And if you want to do it, do it. But I have to be more wary. I have to be, I guess, more calculated in who I talk to and who I don't talk to.
Yep.
Because there is a secret sauce, right? I think with any business, we may be all doing the same thing and maybe the same industry, but there are key things that you can do within an organisation that literally that sets you apart from everybody else. So
That's interesting because you said there's a secret sauce, right? And, you know, most people who are successful will say there isn't a secret sauce. So I guess it depends how you define that. But do you think that secret sauce is applicable across all businesses? Or do you think that there are secret sauces for each individual business? Or do you just think it's actually more of a mindset and a way that you are going after your outcomes as opposed to having a literal secret sauce?
look, it's a good question. I think, you know, it's got to do with the entrepreneur, right?
Yep.
You know, every entrepreneur that wants to be successful has something in them that not everybody else has.
Yep.
Right? And I think the secret sauce is one of those things in that it can't be with you forever. It can't be a secret forever. People within your business need to know that secret. And I've been open, like I said to you, I've tried to be open as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And, you know, external of my team, yeah, people would say, yeah, they're just a brokerage or they, you know, this is what they do. It's pretty straightforward. But if you come into our team, if you see the people that are within it, they believe in something. They believe in something more than just the business that we have. They believe in the idea. They believe in the culture. You know, they believe that, you know, the customer experience is such an important thing, regardless if we're selling hand soap or we're selling, you know, financial solutions. So therein lies the secret sauce. It's about the belief systems that that I have as an entrepreneur that I can put towards my team and get them to believe it as well.
And look, you, without even knowing, you did it at the beginning of our chat here when I asked you to describe Anfin. You didn't describe Anfin as a financial services company. You decided as a company that dealt in customer experience and customer service, and that's what you feel is the service that you offer, regardless of the product. Which is the fact that you see it that way, and that's how you describe it. That's probably to some degree part of the secret sauce.
Yeah, look, and I think what I've always said to my staff from the outset is that we're a customer experience business that is currently in the financial services business. However, things change. You know, we may pivot. So I want customer experience to be the one thing that drives our business so that if we decide that we want to go sell hand soap one day, we're going to be the best at it.
I'm glad you said pivot because this is episode 3 and no one's said it yet. And we know how good a word it is, so I'm really glad you used it.
And we have to. You know yourself, we've been pivoting on a daily basis lately. Not as much as too much. And
let's talk about that. So let's talk a little bit about COVID. So, you know, it's very topical at the moment. We're sort of 6 months in. We've all got a better understanding of it. Have you felt it's been a good thing for your business, a bad thing for your business, indifferent? It's just made you think differently. You know, how's it affected you and probably your business as a whole, and particularly your staff?
Oh, look, I think we didn't take a fast and heavy approach when we initially had it, and you know that, right? We, we were worried. You know, April was a disaster. End of March all the way through to April was a disaster, and understandably so. You know, a lot of bigger businesses than us, you know, went through some changes that they had to make, which were, you know, far more significant. You know, you look at Qantas, you look at, you know, aviation. Yep. You know, those poor people that were sitting in there. So us, in comparison to them, the scale, we were nowhere near there. However, for us, it felt like it was. Right?
It's your world.
And like I said, I'm emotional about my business. Which means I'm emotional about the people that are within my business. So the first most important thing that I wanted to get over was how am I going to keep them all? How do we get through this? Because my belief didn't waver, right? My belief in this thing didn't waver. Well, maybe a little bit, but my belief in the idea didn't waver. My concept, what I wanted to achieve, I know that it didn't. So it enabled us to, you know, I think more calmly about the situation, understanding that we knew we had also some opportunities that were going to help us through any type of situation, whether it was COVID or a downturn in the economy and so forth, that we just, I guess, rode the wave. I know it's probably giving you a really basic answer, but it's been one of those things where we've had to take it day by day, literally. You know, we've had some hard things that we've had to go through, but in saying that, we've grown. You've seen it. You know, our problem now is people, and not enough of them.
Yeah, yes. Well, you're hiring. I know you're hiring a lot. And, it's fantastic to see businesses that perhaps did have a little bit of a wobble, although I think everybody had a bit of a wobble, really come out strong on the other side. And what I love most about your answer, and you probably don't necessarily, well, you wouldn't know this. One of the things I like to look for when I'm doing these interviews is I try and look for consistencies that people say in all different worlds. And you've just summed up what we've had in every other episode again, and that is the entrepreneurs caring of their staff and their families. You know, it wasn't how do we drive down costs, it's my people and how do I keep them all. That was your concern. And again, that's been consistent with every person I've interviewed. It's their care and their willingness and want to look after their staff and their families. And I think if to be successful, you have to have that as a natural trait rather than just driving profit over everything else. And it's fascinating that you, again, touched on that. So you're the third person in a row. We haven't had a miss yet, so that's awesome.
Look, if we drove down costs, we would have drove down our operational capability, and we would be in a bad position today.
Yep.
So we went the opposite way.
Cool. All right, I have a question that I love, which is a very difficult question, and it's about beliefs.
Yep.
Tell me a belief that you had, and beliefs are really core in people, right? The real belief that you had that has changed, and what made that change?
Look,
And this could be any point in your life. It doesn't have to be at Amphin. It could be any time.
I guess, from an early stage, I didn't believe in myself, right?
Imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
We hear this a lot.
Everyone, I used to hear so much from the people around me, my teachers, that had so much capability, that I had so much
Potential,
talent,
right?
so much potential. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I can't see it. I think, through stages of my life, went through a lot of things that, most people go through. So I'm not going to sit here and
You and I
cry
talk about
it.
imposter syndrome a
Yeah.
lot, right?
Yeah.
It's the most, it never goes away.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest change from back then to now is I now believe in myself. I now believe everything that they all said to me back then, whereas I struggled with it, and I still sometimes struggle with it. I struggle with, am I really, that person people perceive me to be? Am I really, people talk about how good of a guy I am, how great I am to deal with, and, sometimes I question it. I go, am I? Am I really the person that I want to be, right? So I guess the biggest difference between me and Ann is that the confidence levels from when I was a kid, I guess my late teens, to where I am now are completely different. I back myself.
Well, you're doing it.
I do.
You're doing it every day.
I never thought I could be an entrepreneur back then. I genuinely didn't. I didn't think that, as much as I had ideas, I didn't think that I was capable of being different to the environment that I came from.
Well, that's an awesome answer. And that, because, people do feel limited by the environments they're in. And the fact that you feel you have broken out of that is that's one of the best answers we've had. I love that answer.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about you a little bit more, self-development, that kind of thing. So podcasts, books. Now, some people like to read, some people like podcasts, some people like both. I don't mind. You can mix your answers up, and it doesn't have to be a singular one. But is there a book that you've read or are currently reading that you've really enjoyed? Because I've read a lot of books, and I don't think any books have changed my life. A lot of people say books have changed my life. I don't think happened to me, but I've enjoyed a lot of books. So any book like that, or any podcast that you just find, I don't know, you either find inspiring, or you find funny, or you enjoy. Tell me about the kind of things you're doing personally for yourself.
I've got a short attention span, which you know, right? And my wife made me listen to a book on the way to a holiday. So
Audiobook.
Audiobook.
My wife did this to me years ago too.
Where were we going? We're going to Port Stephens, I think. So it was a couple-hour drive.
Yep.
And it was a ride of a lifetime.
What's that about?
Okay, so it's the CEO and chairman of Disney.
Oh,
Bob Iger.
wow.
His story. And it is by far and away the most engaging, best thing that I've listened to in my life.
I don't know that story.
It's fantastic. I think the thing that resonates most with him is that he started from nowhere.
Everyone does, though.
However, but very educated, right? He was extremely educated and he was driven. Not only that, I love the way that he operates his businesses, because there's multiple businesses that sit under the Walt Disney banner now. And it all comes down to integrity. He's never ever gone into a deal where he was trying to undercut them. It was all about what it was going to do for their business, what it was going to do for his business, and make sure that the two people across the table had respect for each other. It was not a arm wrestle, it wasn't a takeover. Even with his staff, if there was ever bad news that needed to be, I guess, communicated, whether it was one of his staff members, he did it. If he had to fire someone, he would do it. Even if this person was, 5 or 6 grades lower than where he was. He felt like that if it was good news, he would want to give the good news, but also wanted to give the bad news as well. The beauty about him too is that the people around him, he really gave them autonomy to do their roles. Everything's about creativity when it comes to Disney, right? Yep. It was all about giving them their ability to do their roles and nothing to change. And I think one of the key things with that is that they acquired Marvel, they acquired Star Wars and National Geographic, and I think one of the sports channels, a big ESPN, I think
That's
it is.
a spending spree, right?
But in saying that, he didn't change them. Right? With a lot of businesses, when you acquire them, you try to put them into the mold of your business, where he just looked at the people within those businesses and just gave them, I guess, someone that they could lean on, which enabled them to, continuously run those businesses and grow them into the beasts that they are today. It just seems like a really down-to-earth guy. Like, I'd love to sit with him and have a coffee and just pick his brain. But one example of him as well was George Lucas was so protective and loving of his brand. And it resonates with me because I love this thing, right? And it's nowhere near Star Wars or the things that George Lucas has created. But the way that he treated that transaction was almost like, he goes, this is his baby. This is like his child. And if I'm going to take his child away from him, I've got to make him feel like I'm not going to do anything bad. I'm going to look after it. I'm going to nurture it as he would. I'm not going to change his vision. I just want to be able to see what we can do to enhance it, to make it better. And I want him to feel like that it's in good hands, that you can happily let go and know that I'm going to look after the way that you did. It's amazing. Like and I'm probably 10% of what this guy has done and achieved, and some of them. It's called A Ride of a Lifetime.
Ride of a Lifetime. Is he still CEO now?
No, he's a chairman.
Chairman now.
So he's no longer the CEO, but he's just extended his contract with them as well. So they go on contracts over there.
That sounds good.
But yeah, he's just an amazing human being. Amazing human being. I think if you ever want to aspire to be like any CEO in this world, it'd be him. And that customer experience from him, a thing that I get, that I drive with my people, is from him as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's all about customer experience.
Thank your wife for that one then.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. So, as you know, we really want to get the message out as to why someone might want to work for Anfin. And I don't think there's anyone ever better, including myself, than the founder to say to someone, this is why you want to come and work with us. You've got a number of roles live at the moment, and looking at the way it's going, they are not going to stop. The growth is just projected like that. So, for anyone out there listening, tell me, why would someone want to come and work at Anfin?
I think why they want to come and work for us is there's no preconceived ideas of what you should or shouldn't look like, right? And what I mean by that is my past, my past history, in that I felt that I was capable to get jobs that I couldn't get purely because of a degree qualification or experience that was required. I don't think like that, and I think you know that, right? And we've done that with a few roles that you've given us, where one person in particular came in as a consultant role, is now a BI specialist, as data specialist, right?
We've had a few like that.
We've had a few, right? So I think the biggest thing that I'd like to say to a potential employee of our business is that if you've got the will, if you've got talent, and you may not necessarily have the skill set so far for that job, I'd be willing to give you a go, because I know that's how I started. That's exactly how I started to this journey today, where I went into an industry I had no idea about. I was given a chance, and as a result of that, this is where I am.
And look, I can attest to that, because I think some of, in fact, nearly all the most successful staff that we've found for you have been left of centre, right? Haven't they?
Yeah.
And it's awesome that you're willing to do that, because a lot of people sometimes when they have success aren't. And I think that it's good that you're willing and still very open-minded about that.
Absolutely. And look, I think, one of the things that I've learned over time is that the success doesn't need to just sit with me. I'd love to see this thing get to a stage one day where it doesn't need me anymore.
Yep.
And, the only way that happens is by the people that you hire. So it's extremely important that, there's a succession plan so that these things can stand the test of time.
Beautiful. George, thank you so much. As you know, it's always good to chat, and I have learnt some new things today, which is good. And there might be a few things I might bring up when we speak again tomorrow off air, but thank you for coming in.
No, thank you for having me.